Welcome to the Heartbreak Chronicles, where every story is a raw reflection of life. Hit that subscribe button to stay tuned, give us a like to show your support, and share this episode with your friends. Don't forget to leave a comment and let us know what you think. Now, let's dive into today's story. I'm Mason, a software engineer working in New York. 5 years ago, I married my wife, Olivia. Olivia is a graphic designer, and we always thought we were soulmates. But in hindsight, that could have been a huge mistake. The first few years of our marriage were quite happy. I worked hard and soon became established in the company with a higher salary. Olivia, on the other hand, is always on the lookout for a job that suits her. Last year, she finally got into a well-known advertising agency, started the career of her dreams. However, things didn't go as we thought they would. Olivia begins to frequent company parties and get-togethers. At first, she just went out every Wednesday night, but it quickly turned into Wednesdays and Fridays, which totally disrupted our date nights. When I reminded her, she insisted on going out with her coworkers and suggested that we could move the date to Saturday. Olivia's late nights were getting worse, sometimes coming home at 4 in the morning. I call her, but it always goes to voicemail. Finally, I relented and decided to talk to her. One Saturday morning, as we sat at the dining room table drinking coffee, I spoke up. "We need to talk." "Talk about what?" she asked. "Your Friday night party. We used to have date nights. And now you're always out until 4 in the morning. What's going on?" Olivia sighed. "I'm just going out to relax with the girls at work. Have a few drinks, and sometimes we dance. These clubs close at 1 a.m., I pressed. "What were you doing up to 4 o'clock? "Sometimes we go out to eat," she admitted. "Do you have someone on the outside?" I asked directly. "No, of course not." She looked a little angry. "I'm just enjoying life. You can't keep me cooped up all the time." I take a deep breath and try to calm down. "Olivia, you are either my wife. Either that or they're friends, and I think you're using me." "I'm sorry," she said. "I can stop going out on Fridays if you want." "I think it's a good idea," I said. "We can spend time together." She agreed and went to take a shower. While she was away, I installed a tracker on her cell phone to make sure she does what she says she's going to do. Over the next few weeks, things seemed to improve. But soon enough, Olivia fell back into old habits. I decided to use the tracker to see where she went after work. That Friday night, I showered and changed my clothes. Came to the bar the tracker showed. I caught a glimpse of Olivia, who was sitting with a group of people. One of the men was particularly close to her. They were chatting away, completely oblivious to my arrival. "What do you want?" the man asked as I walked up to their table. "I just got off work and thought I'd grab a beer," I said, deliberately embarrassing Olivia. "Honey, aren't you going to introduce your friend?" Olivia looks embarrassed. "Everyone. This is Mason, my husband." "Mason, this is everyone." I noticed she wasn't wearing a wedding ring. When I pointed this out, she explained, "I took my ring off for fear of losing it." The man sitting next to Olivia stands up, holds out his hand and says, "I'm Kevin. We work together a lot, and if you don't mind, I was thinking of asking your wife to dance." I look at Olivia. "Is it true?" She nodded. I decided to go with the flow and see how things would turn out. "Go ahead then, but don't forget, she's my wife. I'll keep an eye on you guys." When Olivia and Kevin went dancing, I sat in Kevin's spot and ordered a beer. Most of the people had already left, and only one woman remained. "You don't own her, you know?" the woman sitting next to me said. "Who are you?" I asked. "I'm Sophia, and I mentor Olivia at the company," she said haughtily. I didn't like her attitude. "So, Sophia, why do I need your advice?" "I'm Olivia's friend and mentor, and the partners at the firm expect a lot from her," she says smugly. I shook my head. "Look, Sophia, I never said Olivia belonged to me. But I'm her husband, and if there's anything affecting our marriage, I need to know." "Mason, Olivia needs to expand her horizons. All she knows is college and you. She needs to spread her wings." "Spreading her wings? Is there anything else she needs to experience?" I asked sarcastically. "There's no need to be rude," Sophia said. "But yes, there may be other things she needs to go through. You'll benefit in the long run, too." "How would I benefit?" I asked. "Maybe she'll learn some new skills that she can bring home to you." Sophia hinted. I shook my head. Sophia, I'll go to work, do what I can, get my paycheck, and go home. I love Olivia and wouldn't hurt her or our marriage, so maybe you're the one who needs to expand your horizons. Just then, Kevin and Olivia returned from their dance. I stood up and motioned for Olivia to sit between Sophia and me, blocking Kevin's chance to sit next to her. So, Olivia tells me you're a software engineer. Kevin says, how much does a software engineer make? $15 an hour? I laughed. More like $35 an hour, if not more. Kevin looks a little surprised. I didn't know software engineers made that much. I bet you get a lot of pussy while you're out working, don't you? I looked at Olivia and replied, no, I work 16 hours a day when I work in the field. Like I told Sophia, I take my marriage vows seriously. Kevin looks a little embarrassed, but continues, sure, we all are. I've had enough of this. I turned to Olivia and said, I've had enough fun. I'm going home and I want you to come back with me. When I stood up, I accidentally spilled a cold beer on Kevin's pants. Gee, I'm sorry, I said. You'd better go home and change your clothes. Kevin looked angry and seemed like he wanted to hit me, but he saw the warning in my eyes and wisely backed off. I turned to Olivia. Are you coming? I'll follow you, she said quietly. I walked out of the bar and didn't look back. A few minutes later, Olivia arrived home as well. I grabbed a beer and waited for her in the living room. She rushed in, her face red. What the fuck was that all about? Are you following me? She asked. I shook my head. No, I just wanted a beer and I didn't expect to see you with a coworker. I realized I had lied to her, and it was the first time I had ever done so. I felt some shame, but more anger. Imagine how I feel seeing you take off your wedding ring like you're ashamed of me, I said. Olivia's expression softened and she sat down next to me. Of course not. I work with these people, especially Kevin and Sophia. What's Sophia's role? I asked. She's higher up in the company than I am, and she's my mentor. Does she still offer marriage counseling? I asked. What do you mean? While you were dancing, she said you needed to expand your horizons. So honestly, did you cheat? No, she said, but avoided my gaze. I suspect she's lying. You know I can't forgive betrayal, I reminded her. Sophia said you might cheat on her while you were away at work. Do you think I would do that? No, she said softly. I've seen your paycheck. You paid for my college tuition. After buying my car and paying our bills, I've been saving up to buy a house as a down payment. Sophia's advice is nonsense. Sophia sighed. You don't like her, do you? No, I don't trust her, and I don't trust Kevin. They're plotting something to drag you down with them. You didn't do anything wrong, did you? No, Mason, I'm not, she said. What then? I asked. I like going out with them, she admitted, but I like being with you better. Can you spend more time with your husband? I asked. Sure, she said, hugging me. I'm sorry. It's okay, I told her. I've always wanted only 3 things: to marry you, to be the best software engineer I could be, and to start a family with you. She smiled. Well, you've got the first 2. Want to start working on the third now? I smiled and responded, let's go. We ran into the bedroom and had a passionate night. Over the next few months, things seemed to improve. Olivia stayed home Friday night, and I was more caring and considerate. I purposely don't mention Sophia or Kevin anymore because I trust Olivia to do the right thing. However, things didn't go as I had hoped. I began to notice that Olivia's behavior was becoming increasingly strange. She often gets mysterious phone calls late at night and always avoids me answering them. I tried to believe her, but the doubt inside me grew stronger. I know that our marriage is facing a serious test, and the worst may be yet to come. Just when I thought things might be getting better, Olivia made a surprising suggestion. Mason, the company is organizing a reunion next weekend, she said over dinner one Friday night. I wish you'd come with me. I was a little surprised because Olivia had never invited me to a company event before. Really? Where? I asked. An abandoned warehouse in the suburbs, she explains. The company rented it and did some remodeling. It says it's going to give us a different experience. Although I was a little weirded out by the location, I agreed. Maybe this is Olivia's way of trying to repair our relationship. The next weekend, we drove to a warehouse in the suburbs. It does look a bit deserted, but the interior has been decorated in a very creative way. It looks like a sleek industrial-style event venue. "Come on, I'll get you something to drink," Olivia says, handing me a cocktail. I took the cup and took a sip. It tasted a little strange, but I didn't think much of it, and the atmosphere seemed relaxed as we started talking to Olivia's coworkers. However, after about half an hour, I began to feel dizzy. "Olivia, I don't feel too good," I mumbled. "It's all right, dear," she said. "Probably just drank too fast. Come on, I'll take you for a rest." That's the last thing I remember. When I woke up again, I found myself tied to a chair, unable to move my limbs. The room was dimly lit, and I blinked hard, trying to comprehend what was happening. Suddenly, the lights came on and I saw Olivia standing in front of me. Next to her boss, Sophia, was Kevin and another man I didn't recognize. "What are you guys doing?" I asked in horror. Sophia said, "Oh, Mason, you're so naive. Do you think Olivia really loves you? She's just using you." I turn to Olivia and look at her incredulously. "Is this true?" Olivia avoids my gaze, but Sophia continues, "Of course it's true. Olivia knows that. To be successful in our company, you have to make some sacrifices, and you, dear Mason, it's her sacrifice." What happened next is something I don't even want to think back on. They violated me and recorded the whole thing on camera. I felt humiliated, angry, and desperate, but there was nothing I could do. "Now," Sophia said after it was all over, "we have some very interesting movies. If you don't want them on the internet, you're going to behave, and we'll tell you what to do and what to say. Got it?" I nodded weakly, tears streaming down my face. They untied me, but I could barely stand. Olivia comes over and tries to help me up, but I push her away. "Don't touch me," I hissed. "I never want to see you again." I don't know how I got out of that warehouse, but I managed to drive back into town. I went straight to the police station and reported what had happened. The police looked shocked and took immediate action. At the hospital, I was examined and deposed. Just then, a woman who identified herself as Linda walked into my hospital room. "Mason Shipman?" she asked. "I'm Linda Calloway, the assistant district attorney on your case." I nodded, feeling a glimmer of hope. Linda sat down and looked at me seriously. "Mason, I have to tell you that your wife and her accomplice have been arrested. But the situation may be more complicated than you think." "What do you mean?" I asked. "The forces behind Olivia are not simple," Linda explains, "and we suspect that the company she works for is involved in multiple illegal activities. I suggest you file a protective order and hire a good divorce attorney." I felt a chill run down my spine. "You think I'm in danger?" Linda nodded. "Most likely. We'll do our best to protect you, but you need to be careful too. Here is the business card of a trusted divorce attorney who understands similar situations." Just then, my parents rushed to the hospital. They looked both angry and worried. "Son, we just heard what happened," my father said. "Are you okay?" I shook my head. "Not so good, Dad, but I'll get through it." My mother hugged me tightly. "We'll always be there for you, Mason. And if you need a divorce, we totally understand." To my surprise, Olivia's parents came too. They looked both ashamed and sad. "Mason, we are so sorry for what Olivia did," her father said. "We didn't know she would turn out like this, and if you decide to get a divorce, we're totally behind you." I nodded gratefully, but I was still a mess inside. A few days later, I returned home. However, I found myself unable to stay in the apartment filled with memories I shared with Olivia. Just as I was considering moving, I received an anonymous email. When I opened the email, my heart almost stopped. Inside was a photograph showing a man who had died. Underneath the photo is a line that reads, "If you continue to pursue this, this is what will happen to you." I immediately called Linda, and she advised me to preserve the evidence, but not to do anything rash. However, the next day, I met Olivia's coworker, Holly, in front of the office. "Mason, we need to talk," she said nervously. "But not here. Come with me." We went to a quiet cafe and Holly handed me an envelope. "This is a picture of my husband Brian," she said, her voice quivering. who found out about some of Kevin and company's illegal hookups. And then, they killed him, and the police said it was suicide, but I know it wasn't. I felt a wave of nausea. Why are you telling me this? Because you're in danger too, Holly said. They won't let you off easy. You have to get out of the city. The sooner the better. I look at Holly and suddenly realize what a dangerous situation I've gotten myself into. I need a plan. I need a safe place. Just then I remembered an old friend who might be able to help me. Holly's warning echoed in my ears, and I knew I had to get out of the city as soon as possible. One name comes to mind: Ethan. He's an old friend of mine of many years and now runs a farm in the countryside away from the hustle and bustle of the city. Maybe that can be my temporary haven. I quickly packed some essentials and purchased a coach ticket with cash. To avoid being traced, I called Linda and briefly explained the situation before embarking on my journey. She agreed that it was a wise decision and promised to continue investigating the case. After a bumpy ride of nearly 10 hours, I finally arrived at Ethan's farm. As I stepped out of the car, the sun shone warmly on my face, and the aroma of earth and grass filled the air around me. It was a stark contrast to the city life I was used to. I walked down the dusty path toward the farmhouse, apprehensive. After all, I haven't seen Ethan in years. Just then I heard a familiar voice. "Mason? Is it really you?" I turned to see Ethan standing at the edge of the field with a surprised look on his face. He looked older than I remembered, his skin tanned from long hours outdoors. But those kind eyes remained the same. "Ethan," I said, feeling a wave of relief. "I apologize for just showing up out of nowhere. I've been having some trouble. Needed a place to hide." Ethan's expression immediately turned serious. "Come in," he said. "We'll talk inside." As we walked into the farmhouse, a young woman came out of the kitchen. I froze, barely recognizing her. "Hannah?" I asked incredulously. She smiled, a smile that reminded me of when we were kids all those years ago. "It's been a long time, Mason," she said. "I see you finally remembered we exist." Hannah is Ethan's sister, a few years younger than me. I remember she used to be a skinny little girl with braces, but now she has grown into a beautiful, confident young woman. We sat at the kitchen table, and I told them everything that had happened over the past few months. From Olivia's betrayal, to corporate intrigue, to the danger I now face. Ethan and Hannah listened quietly, their faces changing from shock to anger and finally to deep sympathy. "You can stay here as long as you want," Ethan said firmly. "We'll protect you." Hannah agreed with a nod. "No one would think to look for you here, and besides," she winked, "I'm an excellent shot." I looked at her in surprise. "Really?" Ethan laughed. "Don't let her petite size fool you. Hannah is not only an excellent vet, but one of the best hunters in the area." Over the next few days, I slowly adjusted to the pace of life on the farm. Every morning I wake up to the sound of roosters crowing and sunshine. Ethan taught me the basics of farming while Hannah showed me around and familiarized me with the land. Hannah took me to a secluded hillside one afternoon. She pulled a rifle out of her backpack and handed it to me. "Come on," she said. "I'll show you how to use it. It could be a useful skill around here." I hesitated. I hadn't touched a gun since my brother's accident years ago. But Hannah's insistent gaze changed my mind. Under her tutelage, I learned how to properly hold, aim, and shoot a gun. Hannah is a patient teacher who exudes confidence and grace in every move she makes. "You're a fast learner," she said approvingly, "but you need more practice." Over time, I found myself appreciating Hannah more and more. Not only is she beautiful, but she's smart, strong, and has incredible survival skills. I began to realize that maybe the one I had been looking for was right in front of me. However, just as I started to let my guard down, reality hit me hard. One night I was helping Ethan work on the tractor when Hannah came running up to me out of nowhere with a terrified look on her face. "Mason," she panted, "I just got a call from a friend in town. Someone was asking about your whereabouts." I felt a chill run down my spine. "How did they find this place?" I asked. Ethan frowned. "It could be through your cell signal. Did you take the battery out?" I slapped my forehead in chagrin. In my panic, I'd completely forgotten about it. "We've got to be ready," Ethan said. "They could be here soon." For the next few hours, we were busy reinforcing the farm's defenses. Ethan checked all the doors and windows to make sure they were securely locked. Hannah, on the other hand, has a couple of shotguns and plenty of ammo. We need to have a plan, Hannah said. What are we going to do if they do come? We sat around the kitchen table and discussed every possible scenario and coping strategies. Despite the tension, I felt safer than ever with Ethan and Hannah by my side. Just then, my cell phone suddenly rang. We were both startled, and I carefully picked up my cell phone to see that it was an unfamiliar number. Hello? I said cautiously. Mason, it was Linda's voice. I've got bad news. The judge bailed her out thanks to Olivia's company. We suspect she and her associates are tracking you. Are you in a safe place now? I looked at Ethan and Hannah and nodded. Yes, I'm safe. But they could have found this place. Linda was silent for a moment, then said, Look, Mason, we're doing everything we can to investigate this case. But for now, you must protect yourself. And if they do come, don't hesitate. Remember, it's self-defense. I hung up and told Ethan and Hannah what Linda had said. Looks like we're going to have to prepare for the worst, Ethan said, determination in his voice. Hannah took my hand. Don't worry, Mason. We'll protect you. I looked into her eyes and suddenly realized how lucky I was. In one of the darkest moments in this world, I found true friends and maybe true love. But our ordeal had only just begun when the roar of a car engine came closer and closer in the distance. We all held our breath. They're coming, Hannah whispered. We put out all the lights and hid in a pre-agreed position. My heart was beating fast. My palms were sweaty, and I knew that the next few hours would decide my fate. As the first car pulled up in front of the farm, I took a deep breath and gripped the shotgun in my hand. No matter what happens, I don't give up easily, and with Ethan and Hannah by my side, I know we can get through this. In the darkness, I heard footsteps slowly approaching. There's a storm coming, and we're right in the center of it. The night shrouded the farm, and the only sounds in the silence were footsteps and whispers in the distance. Myself, Ethan, and Hannah hid in our respective predetermined positions, nervously awaiting the impending confrontation. Suddenly, the front door of the farmhouse was kicked open violently. I heard a couple of people break in and start rummaging through the boxes. Mason! I heard a familiar voice shout, I know you're here. Come on out and let's talk. It's Olivia's voice and my heart races, but I force myself to stay calm. Come on, dear, she continued, with a hint of mockery in her voice. You don't want to make things worse, do you? I glanced at Ethan, who shook his head gently, signaling me to keep quiet. We heard footsteps coming closer and closer, then suddenly stopped. Check upstairs, another voice ordered, and I recognized it as Kevin's. Just then, Hannah somehow bumped into something and there was a soft thud. The room was instantly quiet. What was that noise? Sophia asked warily. The next moment, things suddenly got out of hand. Kevin fired a shot in the direction we were hiding, and the bullet grazed my ear and embedded itself in the wall. Stop! I shouted, standing up from my hiding place. I'm here. Don't hurt anyone else. Olivia, Sophia, and Kevin turned to me with triumphant smiles on their faces. Finally showing up, Kevin said, You had us looking. Just then, Ethan and Hannah come out of their hideout as well, both with shotguns in hand. Drop your weapons, Ethan said calmly, or we're not going to be nice. Kevin laughed. Who do you think you are? A cowboy from the West? But Sophia seems to realize the gravity of the situation. We're just here to talk, she said, trying to ease the tension. There's no need to resort to violence. Talk? I sneered. After what you did to me? Olivia stepped forward. Mason, honey, it was just a misunderstanding. We can start over. I looked at her incredulously. Did you really think I would trust you after you betrayed me and used me? Just then, Kevin suddenly raised his gun and pointed it at Hannah. Enough, he shouted. Mason, you can either come with us or watch your new girlfriend die here. Time seemed to stand still as I saw a flash of fear in Hannah's eyes, but she quickly calmed down. I knew I had to make a choice. Just as I was about to surrender, Hannah sprang into action. She lunged at Kevin with incredible speed, slamming her shoulder into his midsection. Kevin lost his balance, and the gun slipped out of his hand. Ethan immediately capitalizes on this opportunity by targeting Sophia and Olivia with a shotgun. Don't move, he yelled. But it wasn't over yet. Kevin quickly recovered and grabbed his gun from the ground. He aimed at Hannah and pulled the trigger. "No!" I shouted, rushing towards Hannah. The shot rang out and I felt a sharp pain as the bullet grazed my arm. But I couldn't care less about the pain and continued to lunge at Hannah. We fell to the ground together, barely dodging the second bullet. Just then, I heard sirens, and it looked like the backup Linda had sent had finally arrived. Kevin, Sophia, and Olivia realized the situation and tried to escape. But Hannah was quicker. She grabbed the shotgun that had fallen to the ground and aimed it at Kevin's leg. Bang! A gunshot rang out and Kevin fell to the ground, groaning in pain. Police stormed the farmhouse and quickly took control of the situation. Olivia and Sophia were arrested and Kevin was taken to the hospital. When everything calmed down, I finally got a chance to look at my wounds. Luckily, it was only a flesh wound, but it still needed to be bandaged. Hannah walked over to me with a worried look on her face. "Are you okay?" I smiled. "It's fine. Just a little bruise. But you? That was so brave back there." She blushed slightly. "I just did what had to be done." Ethan walked over and patted me on the shoulder. "You're both heroes. If it wasn't for you, we might not have been so lucky." The police started taking our statements. I described in detail everything that happened from the beginning until now. Linda also arrived on the scene and assured me that this time, with ample evidence, Olivia and her cohorts would be duly punished. "We've got enough evidence to sue the entire company," Linda said, "and they're involved in more wrongdoing than we thought." A few weeks later, the case finally went to trial. I took the stand as the main witness and felt a wave of mixed emotions as I watched Olivia sit at the defense table. There was a time when I thought we'd spend our lives together, but now, everything's changed. The court ultimately convicted Olivia and Sophia of multiple felonies, including attempted murder, conspiracy, and racketeering. They were both sentenced to life imprisonment. Kevin is still in the hospital for injuries sustained during the arrest, but he faces the same charges. After the trial, I went back to Ethan's farm. It's become a haven for me, and I don't want to leave. "What are you going to do?" Hannah asked me the other night. We sat on the porch of the farmhouse and watched the sun slowly sink into the horizon. I took a deep breath. "I think I need to start over, but I'm not sure where to begin." Hannah gently took my hand. "Maybe you could start here?" I turned my head and looked into her eyes, and there I saw hope, courage, and love. "Are you serious?" I asked softly. She nodded. "I know you've been through a lot and it will take time to recover, but I'll always be here for you if you want." I felt a warmth welling up inside me. Perhaps this was the second chance fate had given me. "Hannah," I said, "I think I found a new beginning." I leaned forward and kissed her softly, a kiss that felt like a promise, a new beginning. Over the next few months, my relationship with Hannah grew deeper. We worked together on the farm and enjoyed a simple but fulfilling life. Ethan supported us wholeheartedly and even joked that he could tell there was going to be something between us. At the same time, I started thinking about how I could use my software engineering skills to help the farm. I developed a farm management system to help Ethan better manage the affairs of the farm. The system soon attracted the interest of other farmers in the neighborhood. With the encouragement of Hannah and Ethan, I decided to start an agri-tech company. Our goal is to provide small farms with affordable, easy-to-use technology solutions that help them increase productivity. The company quickly took off, and we not only helped many farmers, but also created local jobs. It is overwhelming to watch our efforts make a positive difference in our community. A year later, on a sunny weekend, Ethan called Hannah and me up to a small hill on the farm. "I have a surprise for you," he said mysteriously. When we reached the top of the hill, we saw a newly reclaimed land on which foundations had been laid. "What?" Hannah asked in surprise. Ethan smiled and said, "This is the foundation of your new home, and I think it's time for you to have a place of your own." Hannah and I smiled at each other with gratitude and joy in our eyes. "Thank you, Ethan," I said, so moved I could hardly speak, "for giving me a home, a new beginning." Ethan patted me on the shoulder. "We're family, Mason. That's what family does." Standing there, overlooking our farm, my new home, I felt a sense of peace and contentment that I had never felt before. Life has hit me hard, but it has also given me the strength to get back on my feet and people to cherish. I put my arm around Hannah's waist and whispered, "I love you." She leaned over my shoulder and replied softly, "I love you too, Mason." The sun is setting and a new day is about to begin. And for me, it's not just a new day, it's a whole new life. I have finally found true happiness and a place where I belong. In this land, in the company of Hannah and Ethan, I knew I was finally home. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a story to share about your own or someone else's experience, please feel free to contact me. Take care.